Hello everyone, my name is Roya, and today I'm going to tell you about the books that I read in the first half of September. It's only the 8th right now, but I already read like 9 books, so I don't know how that is possible, but thankfully a lot of them are part of the same couple of series, so I should be able to talk about them fairly quickly. So first I read Strange the Dreamer and Muse of Nightmares, both by Laini Taylor. So a couple of years ago I read the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy by Laini Taylor, and I was amazed at how creative the entire concept was and all of that, and this was definitely even more incredible that way. It is just so weird in a very confusing but in a good way, and the characters were all very interesting. I felt like some of the characters we didn't get to know as well, but I think I liked Muse of Nightmares a little bit more than Strange the Dreamer, which I listened to on audiobook. I think that the audiobook format was probably not that good of a format to be reading these books in, just because you read these more for her writing and her crazy creative ideas rather than for like action-packed storytelling or anything like that. So I think that the audiobook made it seem really dry or something like that, but I think I also liked Muse of Nightmares a lot more because there was a lot more of what the heck is going on here and secrets being kept from the reader and all of that than Strange the Dreamer had. But both of them are very good books in that they're just so crazy and weird, and I have to once again applaud Laini Taylor for having such creative ideas. I just really don't think any of her books are anything like anything I've ever read. I also read A Room Away from the Wolves by Nova Ren Suma. This is also a book I got at Book Expo, and it actually just came out on September 4th, I believe, so you can totally go and get it. But this is about a girl who goes to stay at this like boarding house for women that her mom once stayed at, and it's definitely a weird, like there's some paranormal stuff going on that's very weird in almost a Laini Taylor-esque or Neil Gaiman-esque way, where the main character is just so in denial of any of it, basically. Like, she won't even admit that like half these people she's talking to are ghosts or anything. Like, so it's definitely very interesting that way, but I do think that this story could have had a little bit more of a plot, because I feel like the story was just kind of, this is really weird, here you go. So it wasn't particularly plot driven or character driven, and it was so weird that some stuff didn't necessarily get explained by the end, and it was just told in this very like circular, crazy way, but I do still think this was a very interesting book. So then I also finished an entire trilogy already this month, and that was the Fourth Element series by Kat Ross, consisting of The Midnight Sea, Blood of the Prophet, and Queen of Chaos. And this is a Persian-inspired story about a girl whose little sister was possessed by a like bad deva, and then she ended up having to be killed because of it. And so the main character, whose name is Nazafarine, ends up going to join a group of people who, by being bonded to devas, they can combat like the bad devas. And there are some interesting characters, and like I said, this is a Persian-inspired series that I absolutely love Persian-inspired anything. Like, please give me more. But I do feel like the setting was really confusing, because even though there is a lot of magic in it that it is known, it's not like a historical fantasy where just kind of there's some magic in it, but no, it's actually like this is definitely a fantasy world, except that it is actually like ancient Persia, and everything is called the same stuff, and Zarathustra shows up in it, so there's like real stuff from history like that plays a part in the book. However, just the fact that it was also trying to be a historical fantasy, and it was trying to be a fantasy but not just a historical fantasy, so I thought that was really weird, and I was really confused for the entire first book, whether it was supposed to actually be ancient Persia or whether it was totally a fantasy world. But I do think the first one was the best of the trilogy because the other two had a lot of very sloggy parts in there where even though these books are not that long, they're like maybe 300 pages or so each, these second two books just really had a lot of parts that I felt like I was reading through mud, especially the second one. I feel like the pacing of the second one was particularly like weird. It took forever to get to like anything that actually happened in it. And then also the fact that the first one is told entirely from the main character's point of view in first person, whereas in the second two books, it's divided up between her first person and like other people's kind of third person points of views. So that was kind of odd that way, but overall I did enjoy this series. I just was expecting a lot more, and especially since this has been on my TBR for quite a while, and I was really excited to read it, but it ended up being just kind of like good-ish rather than spectacular. I did also read one more ebook, and this is The Wicked Deep by Shea Ernshaw, and this I actually had on hold from the library for like 2 months almost. No, like a month and a half, something like that. And I finally got it. I finished it in one day. And so it's very good in that it's a very fast-paced read, and I could barely put it down, but I also am not sure if it's necessarily like a good book, if it really met my expectations, because I did hear about this book originally like a year ago, and I'd been looking forward to it ever since, but just had not gotten around to reading it. So this is about a fictional town in Oregon where 3 sisters who had been drowned as witches 200 years ago have been coming back every summer and basically possessing 3 girls and going off and drowning people. So then we follow this one girl who is trying to just figure out what the heck is going on. And I did find the twist of this book to be extremely predictable. Right from the very first chapter, I was like, that's what's gonna happen. And then also just the fact that the characters were not particularly interesting, and the love interest and the love subplot was just so bland. I was just like, no way. So Little Book Owl actually just reviewed this book, and her thoughts on that were kind of, when the love interest showed up, I was like, oh no. And when I saw her review of that, I was like, that's literally exactly what I thought about the love interest too. I definitely just thought, oh no, as soon as he showed up, because he was so bland, and I just knew that the love subplot in this was going to be really bland. So overall, while it wasn't as good as I was hoping, I did really enjoy this. I enjoyed reading it. I could barely put it down. It was definitely a finished it in one day kind of book. I really did not find any parts to be like super boring or anything like that. It definitely kept me going. This is iPod. This is actually the first time that she's gotten up off of my desk to come and sit in my lap while filming in like a couple of months. It's been like she used to do this every single time I filmed a video, and lately she hasn't been. So say hi to iPod, because clearly she is here. And the last book that I read as part of this wrap-up is the second Murderbot book by Martha Wells. This one is called Artificial Condition, and this is a series of novellas. I just recently read the first one, basically because I got the 4th one at Book Expo, so I've started reading them. And this one is almost, I feel like I liked this one a little bit more just because these are novellas and you don't get as much of the setting in each one as you would like to, basically, but I do think that the first one was a lot more high stakes and whatnot, but for some reason I was able to get into this one a lot more. I don't know why that really is, but this is definitely a really good series, and now I need to read the 3rd one so that I can read the 4th one, which I have. So those are the books that I read in the first half of September. Let me know if you've read any of these, have any thoughts on them, and what you have read so far this month that you have loved, and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye!